Welcome to StratComm.Live, the podcast for small business and nonprofit marketing. We are excited to have you guys here on the show with us. So I'm Josh Hatcher, and this is...
I am Kelsey Bowden.
All right. So, guys, this is our very first inaugural episode. What we're here to do is we want to help your organization tell your story. We want to help you communicate your message to the people that need to hear it. You know,
amplify your message.
Amplify it. Like, turn it
That's
up.
right.
Because a lot of nonprofits and small business throw a ton of money away on junk marketing because they don't understand how it works. We're here to help you do it right.
Junk marketing and advertising.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. I mean, you can spend money on those things, but you've got to do it right. And we want to help you learn how to do that.
A comprehensive approach to marketing and communications and getting your message out there and expressing who you are and who and what your brand is within your community.
So my hope is in that this short podcast episode and in the podcast episodes to come, you not only get to engage with us and have fun with us, but we can help equip you to be able to spread the word about what you're doing. That's what our goal is.
There's people engaging with us and having fun with us right now.
I'm hoping. Which, honestly, speaking of which, how about we get to know each other a little bit better? So, Kelsey, just real quick, tell me a little bit more about yourself.
I have known you for a long time. We know each other. Now,
yeah.
My name is Kelsey Bowden. I am the president and founder of Grand River Agency, and which was formerly Southern Tier Communications Strategies, but now we have embarked on a new rebrand. And I am a communications professional with a range of experiences spanning almost 2 decades. And I'm just excited to be here. I took a wrong left turn and I ended up at the wrong golf course, it looks like. So I figured while I was here, we could talk about marketing or something.
That sounds great. Yeah. Yeah. If you're golf coursing in my backyard, there's plenty of gopher holes to lose your golf balls.
I don't want to tear up your yard, man.
So, and I'm Josh Hatcher, and I am the Vice President of Client Success at Grand River Agency. And so my goal is helping to strategize your communications, which, by the way, that's where the StratComm comes in our name, because it means strategic communications, because if you're going to spread the word about something, you need to do it smart, right?
Yeah, that's right. Yep. And so we're not getting too jargony, StratComm.
Yeah.
So some people might not understand that, but that is just, it encompasses a range of different communications tactics from content marketing, digital marketing to public relations. In the nonprofit realm can be even grant writing and donor cultivation and those sorts of activities. So it's a wide range of services that we provide.
Definitely. Mm-hmm. So, Kelsey, I want to get to know you better.
Again, you've known me for so long.
No, I know, but the people listening don't.
Mm-hmm.
So let's ask some fun questions.
Let's do it.
So I'll ask this question, you answer it, and then I'll answer it.
Okay.
If you could eat one meal for the rest of your life, what would it be?
Ooh, that would be my chicken marsala. That is, I like to cook. I like to cook for my family, and that is just a recipe that I learned years ago with the mushroom marsala sauce, and I could bathe in that. So I could eat that every day for the rest of my life. It's amazing. What about you, buddy?
So, gosh, this is a hard one for me. I am a food addict. I love all kinds of food. I think right now, and this changes for me. So, you know, it changes. Like in a month,
our tastes change over time. Yeah.
But right now,
I might say something different like a month and a half from now, but
right. Right. I would say right now, the thing that I'm craving, and I haven't had it in a while to like this degree, is like a really good homemade pizza and chicken wings, like buffalo wings. Like that is like, oh, so good.
How hot though? How hot are the wings?
Like, see, that all depends on the place that you're getting them from or how you make the sauce. I like hot wings.
Hot. Me too.
Like them. I don't like them
super hot.
I don't like them so hot that you can't taste the flavor.
Mm-hmm.
But I like them hot enough that it makes you, it takes a while to eat a dozen wings. That's when they're right.
Right.
Like if it takes you a while to eat them and the last wing is cold, that's how you know they're hot enough.
Right. That makes sense. That makes absolute sense.
So yeah, that's, I think, the meal that I could eat. Now, what ends up happening though, like, is after a while, like when you start eating that thing, if you, like, it was the only meal you could eat for the rest of your life, you'd last a week and then you'd be sick of it.
Right.
None of us want that.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Another one, and this is weird. I'll mention a second food if that's okay. Is that all right with you?
Go for it.
And I say this, and probably this would never happen because after one day of eating it, I can't eat it again for another month and a half. But probably like sushi. I love sushi that much. I love the Alaska roll, the Alaskan salmon. But I mean, afterwards, I don't know if I feel like I could eat it every day, but I would just get sick the next day. Does that make sense?
It does.
Yeah.
It does make sense. Yeah. So I have not eaten much sushi. So I've only eaten like,
my mom got me into it. She lived in Japan for a number of years.
I feel like I would like it, but I would have to, like, the little bits that I've tried here and there, I'm like, oh, that's good. But I'm not a big fan of just eating like just the raw fish.
Right.
Like I like the rolls.
They have different rolls. Yeah, absolutely. Like things that are actually like a little bit cooked and stuff.
Yeah. So I think
kind of cooked.
Sushi for Japanese people is like our sandwiches, right?
I believe they might have sandwiches over there. I don't know if they would consider sushi like sandwiches, but
I think like that's
their PB&J is rolled up in
right.
seaweed.
All right. So what's the most unusual job you've ever had?
Oh, okay. So when I was in college at St. Bonaventure, I took a semester off and I started just to make money. Just, I was 19, 20 maybe. I worked at a nursing home kitchen. So I was wearing the hairnet and everything. Oh yeah, it was wild. I was like a dietary aide and I would be, coming in at 1 PM and helping clean up after lunch and then preparing like the 3 o'clock nutrients or whatever for like basically the resident snacks and things like that. And then I would serve dinner to them and everything. But it was working in a nursing home kitchen. I was the only man working there. And it was just me and 5 other 64-year-old women. And they're all fighting amongst each other and everything all the time. And they have their own ways of cleaning up the dining room and doing the dishes and putting things away and all that. And I'm just like, I'm just here for a paycheck. But yeah, that was that was an interesting experience that lasted about 6 months before I went back to school and finished up.
I love it.
Yeah. What about you, man?
Okay, so I've had a lot of different jobs.
Yeah, you've been kind of everywhere.
I've done all kinds of things, the most unusual job I ever had was when I worked on a sawmill and stone quarry. There was an old guy that hired me. It was after I graduated high school. I needed a job, and I was babysitting, and that didn't last very long. I did it until I had something better, and this guy from my church was like, hey man, I think I'm going to reopen the shingle mill. You want to come work for me? And so he he had recovered from cancer like 3 times already and was just an old dude. The only reason he opened it back up was to give me work. And he made wood shingles out of white pine. And so like he would soak the white pines in the mill pond and then put them on this 1800s sawmill that was converted to run on an old natural gas engine.
Mm-hmm.
And then we'd cut it down, then we'd go put it on another mill that would like cut the hunks of log into shingles like at an angle. And so like I would just basically be the guy on the other end of the saw, I'd have to climb underneath this rickety equipment to clear the sawdust out, and like if there were OSHA regulations, this guy had no idea what they were. I was scared. It was just like, just don't cut your hand off, dude. And don't be an idiot. That was the only rule. And as long as you weren't an idiot, you're going to be safe. And he was frequently the idiot. So I tell you what, I watched.
There was no fear of like running afoul of like OSHA. I don't even know what they do. Would they send like inspectors to a site or something like that?
Because it was
kind of randomly.
Because he was paying me cash. You know what I mean? He was just an old dude. He was paying me cash, and it was like worded in such a way so that he could like I was a contractor. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like an independent contractor. So I assumed all responsibility for myself and safety. Mm-hmm. But just without
your own insurance and everything.
Yeah. Oh yeah. There wasn't any insurance. It was just like, hey, it was like a day laborer kind of thing, but I was the only day laborer he had. If he had a doctor's appointment, he'd put me up in the stone quarry and I'd like split irregular flagstone. So I learned a lot about like how the stonework. It was just a really fun, crazy job. And I would work so hard. It was actually one of my favorite jobs. I would work so hard. I'd get home, I'd be sunburned, covered in sawdust and like mill pine juice. And it smelled amazing. And I smelled horrible. And I would come home from work and I would just fall asleep on the living room floor until bedtime. Then I would go up to bed and then I would wake up in the morning and do it again. But like I was jacked. That was the summer before I met Zoe.
Yeah.
And I was jacked. Like I looked like a stud. Not like a stud on a snow tire like I look now. I was a stud.
Uh-huh.
And it was a pretty cool job. But it was unusual. Most people haven't worked on an 1800s, sawmill. So
for whatever reason, what I was picturing there was you said you were sunburnt, and that's just like the opposite of what I was picturing. I was picturing you kind of like down in a coal mine or like working in the dark or whatever, but I don't know. Maybe I have the wrong idea of the industry.
It was just out in the field. Like there was no covering over it or anything like that.
Right.
So it was just out in the sun.
I was just at the very least, I was picturing like a cave.
I got sunburned in the cave.
You got sunburned in the cave. That'll happen. It was just reflecting off the rocks beneath you. Yeah.
So, hey, I think it's fun to ask these little questions and kind of get to know each other. And you know what, dude, that's part of who we are, I think, as a company, too, is a lot of people are out there and their goal is to get rich and make money.
Right.
I mean, we want to make money and we want to get rich.
Right.
Everybody wants that, right?
Right.
But I think relationships and getting to know people is just as important to us.
Agreed. Yeah. The one thing that you said when we were onboarding with a new client about 4 months ago, could you repeat that again? It was about meeting, like even if our clients are 1,000 miles away, we still treat them as if we're going to meet them, at the local grocery store. What was your take on that? I forget.
I don't remember word for word, but
you got to remember it word for word. No, because it was so poignant though. It was very, very accurate because that's exactly how we treat our relationships with clients.
Yeah. We're here to make friends.
Yeah.
And help our friends succeed.
We want our friends to do well. We want to be able to run into them at the grocery store and say, hey, things are working very well for you.
Well, and you know what? And that's the thing.
We're happy for you.
And maybe it's because we're small town guys.
Yeah.
Like that literally.
It is a mindset.
For most of my career and every job I've worked, I could run into one of my clients somewhere.
Right.
At the grocery store.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't want to hang my head because I don't know how things are going. I want to know that, I've operated with integrity. I've done the best I can, and I've helped them succeed because I care about them.
Right.
And I think that's really kind of who we are, and how we operate.
Yeah. And that's followed us a lot of steps along the way too. I think some of that comes because our background, is in journalism. Mine probably a little bit more, because you've bounced around a little bit in other places too, more toward the digital marketing realm. But I spent more of a larger portion of my career in local media, interacting with the people and the decision makers and power brokers and all of that stuff, and just the average common Joe that's coming in with a problem that they want you to kind of look into or something like that. It's it's nice to be able to interact with people like that. And now that we have this nice mix of clients, because we do have our local clients, we have the ones that we legit could meet at the local grocery store, but we have others down in South Carolina and in Tampa, and as we're growing, we still treat them as if we're going to meet them at the grocery store.
Right. And
how many times can we say grocery store in a podcast?
At the post office,
at the post office, at the pet store.
I saw you at the pet store the other day buying food for your bearded dragon.
Which made me very happy.
Oh my goodness.
Yes.
So listen, if that's something that you need somebody who cares about what you're doing, that cares about your business, that cares about your success. Like when I wake up in the middle of the night, dude, like, or before I fall asleep, like I get really pumped when I'm reviewing my day. I get really pumped about us helping a client succeed.
Right.
Like, that is what charges me up. I think probably more than almost anything.
Right.
Is knowing that we hit a milestone that helped this client do well.
Right.
And so if that's something that you want, I want you to go to our website, grandriver.agency, and check out what we're doing there. Send us a message. We'd love to help you do that.
It is an awesome site. You should go check it out. Absolutely. I have, in a similar vein, along with client relations, you said you're very pumped about going over your day. I'm very, very, very much the same. But I also, because I care so much about how the client is doing, I also have this feeling of like trepidation sometimes. If we're heading into a client meeting, like the other day with one of our clients when we were going over the social media analytics, I was up all night just going over that again and again and again and again, how that's going to go, because the numbers were great. The numbers were fantastic. And I was excited for you specifically to be presenting them to the client, because I knew that the client was going to be pleased and we were going to be pleased, but I was still going over that thing in my head. Like, well, what if he's not as happy as he could be, and I just want to do anything possible to get, so that's not even a possibility anymore. You know what I mean?
Right.
The numbers are so good, and we strive for that, obviously, but yeah.
No, I know that feeling too sometimes, but I think I get so excited about seeing the success that, like, and I tend to be a more optimistic person, I think, sometimes than you are. Like you're a worrier and I'm like, whatever.
Right. Yeah. I can agree with that.
Yeah. So like for me, like
I'm not like a nervous Nelly or anything like that.
No,
but
no,
I mean,
no.
like there's still like
but it's still rooted in the same thing,
right,
which is we actually care about the work that we're doing.
Right.
And we're proud of the work that we're doing, and we're excited about the work that we're doing, and we care about the person that we're serving and the organizations that we're serving. And I want to know that we've done the best we can, and I want them to be happy with what we're doing. It's the same motivation,
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah. Again, I'm not a nervous Nelly though.
No, I gotcha. I know that. You nervous Nelly, you.
He's just sweating over this. No, I just want to be sure. I always just want to be sure, you know. And I think that's what makes me effective in my role.
Yeah.
And I know we're just kind of sitting here talking like these vagaries about like what we're doing without actually getting into it. I mentioned social media analytics in there, and it's like, hey, there's a buzzword that our audience is going to listen to, but yeah, we should probably.
Yeah. So what actually does Grand River Agency do?
I have no idea. I found it. No, I'm just kidding. So yes, I founded Grand River Agency, which was Southern Tier Communication Strategies.
That's a mouthful, man.
It was, yeah. It definitely was. But I set it up that way specifically just for search engine optimization.
Mm-hmm.
I knew eventually, a couple of years down the road, as we were going to grow, that a rebrand was going to happen. I wasn't sure what it was going to be at the time, but I just wanted it to be apparent. Hey, these are just communication strategies, and it's a broad range of communication strategies, whatever you want to do. And when I started it in March of 2020, and you were there, helping out with the website and the logo and everything like that, kind of, as a satellite to that. Would that be the word for it? Like a satellite, supplementary, something?
I'm not sure
how you would describe your role at that point in March of 2020 at the start of the pandemic.
Yeah, I think that I was, I was kind of serving as an independent contractor, but I think at first I actually was just like you helped me edit a book. Well, first of all, I mean, we have a long history before all of that, which we can get into in a minute, but so like I kind of owed you some work, and you're like, I think I want to start this company. And
I never felt as if you owed me anything, though. I was
right.
I was reaching out to someone who could do a very, very good job with the things that needed to be done with getting a company off the ground. Right.
But you also did something that was a very good job to help me.
I appreciate it.
Take my book, which was like okay, and make it excellent.
Right.
Like I put your name on the cover of it as edited by Kelsey Bowden because I needed that assistance.
Right.
And so like
and you're a gifted writer to begin with.
No,
it didn't take very long to get that to the finish line.
Well, that book,
or very much effort, I should say.
The crazy thing about that book is it started out as blog posts, right?
Right.
And then I repurposed it and added to it and expanded on it, and it was kind of jumbled. Like there was even still references to the blog in some of the chapters of the book.
Yeah.
So it needed that extra set of eyes on it to help me shape it.
Right.
So you helped me do that, and then you were like, hey, I'm like, look, like I know that this would have cost X amount of dollars. I want to trade with you. I want to make sure that I give you value for value.
Right.
So when you need something, and at that time you were like, I think I want to be a painter and sell my golf course paintings. So you think you could help me do a website when I'm ready to do that? I'm like, yeah. And then next thing you know, you're like, I'm going to launch a company.
Right. Well, because the painting definitely wouldn't pay the bills. So
that painting behind you looks beautiful, dude.
Did I do that?
Yeah. It's a beautiful painting.
that a babbling brook?
It looks like a waterfall.
Yeah, it is.
It's a very grand river.
Yeah, it is a grand river. Yeah. I love the imagery with that. And we'll get into that too, because that's where for Grand River Agency, that's what I was trying to get at, was the imagery as a part of storytelling. And that's something that is in our own backyards here, the Allegheny River. So anyway,
so I helped you build your website.
Yes.
When it was Southern Tier Communication Strategies.
Mm-hmm.
And then where did we go from there?
Okay. So a good problem to have. And I was actually kind of, at the time, I didn't know. March of 2020, I had no idea what the pandemic was going to bring.
Nobody did.
So I mean, like, I didn't even know that it was a risk at the time. I mean, like, it was a risk going into business, as going into any business is, but I didn't know exactly how long that was going to last and how difficult that would make things commerce wise for businesses and nonprofits all across the globe. So but that, we didn't struggle, and we started getting clients pretty much right away. Started getting website jobs, and got our first grant writing client, and then our first digital marketing client within the first several months, which is a great problem to have. But we were never able to focus on our own marketing. We were always just, focused on, for several years, just client deliverables. Do we have this blog post done for Maureen? Do we have this grant proposal done for Mike? I mean, like, it was all that. And then your role in that, serving as a graphic design guru, a website design guy, was to serve the roles that I wouldn't have been able to accomplish myself, because I'm more of a writer. So you and I complement each other very, very well. I'm more focused on the messaging and the writing and making sure that everything is good from that front. And you're the one with the eye for the aesthetic. So we work very well that way. And we worked very well that way for years before that in different capacities too.
Because we met each other. I was working at the Bradford Era at the time, and you were working for Olean Times Herald, which were the two newspapers owned by a parent company.
Yep, Bradford Publishing Company. Yep.
And we worked there for a few years, and we kind of interacted a little bit back and forth.
There was a little bit, not as much. Yeah,
not a lot. Yeah.
And then, but I was very, very, very much aware of your work.
Yeah. Because at that time I was doing design. Because I actually, so similar to you, I have a lot of experience in journalism. Like I said, you might have been doing more day-to-day journalism. I started out at like 16 at a radio station, 14 at a radio station in Coudersport, PA, WFRM, Farm and Home Broadcasting. And I worked that as a teenager, and then in college I worked radio. I thought radio was what I was going to do. And then I worked, like I said, bounced around a lot, but, worked in radio on the side, and then, full time, and then worked as a freelance journalist for a long time, probably while you were still in high school.
Yeah. That would have been while I was still in high school. Yeah.
And then I did my business doing just what we're doing, digital marketing for people. I've done that since I graduated, high school on the side.
Right.
And then there were times where I attempted to make a business out of it, and I would do it full time. And I found that that's actually very difficult for a one person shop to do. Because you get
so busy. I had you.
I know. You get so busy creating the deliverables that you don't have time to do the sales and to build the relationships. And so my business, I would get it to the place where like we could barely scrape by, and then something would go wrong. I'd have a problem with this. A client would have a disaster and have to pull their contract or whatever. You know? And so I would then go get a job. So I did that for years. In the meantime, kind of keeping the business going on the side. So then we connected there, and then we got a job at another digital marketing place and worked together for a few months. And it was shortly after that, I think, when all this stuff happened, where you kind of went out on your own, and I ended up, from the beginning of Southern Tier Communication Strategies, I've been working as a contractor for you, up until here recently. So
yeah, now you're full time.
Yeah, and I love it.
Now you're full time. Yeah, now we have a full time team in addition to the others that we have that are more,
Yes.
part-time contractors and interns that are serving different roles, within their areas of expertise, which are all of tremendous value to us and to our clients. But yeah, having you with us full time, focusing, just what your title is, VP of Client Success. That's exactly what you are. That is incredibly valuable to have.
Yeah. Like, I know that at the place that we're at right now, a lot of what we're doing is still creating deliverables ourselves, but we're building that team so that we can be strategizing and planning and putting those things together and directing, which I think is really a neat. It's really neat to see the way that it's growing, and we can look at the vision for the future and be excited about it. So
right. Well, 3 years, it seems like such a long time, because and it really does feel like that, but it goes by so quickly too.
Yeah, it's just a blink for me, dude. The world's been crazy the past 3 years.
Well, it has, but I'm just strictly from the business standpoint, the 3 years, it was a long haul to get to the point that we're at today.
Yeah.
A long haul.
We've done a lot of work for a lot of people.
Yeah. But it also went so quickly. Like, why is time like that?
Well, my friend,
it's like watching your kid grow up.
My friend Mike says that it is that life is like a roll of toilet paper, and the faster it goes, the closer to the end that it gets.
Right.
When you first started out, it's a big roll, and you're just taking a couple sheets off at a time. Then you get to the end, and there's just a little bit left, and it goes faster.
It goes faster and faster and faster. Yeah, that's right.
So
you have a burning question in there.
I do have a burning question, and it's like smoldering in here. I'm trying to put it into words. Why do we call it Grand River Agency?
Well, the imagery that I really appreciated. We're here in northwestern PA, southwestern New York, and the Allegheny River is right in our backyards, and it's just this beautiful, picturesque thing that I think a lot of us take for granted. Honestly, I mean, and it's a place that has not only been known for its natural beauty, but it's also a place that has driven commerce since the establishment of our area, since the settlement of our area.
Actually, before that.
Oh yeah,
because the natives
with the natives, yeah. So for hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of years, and I just love. I can't really pinpoint exactly. I just love the imagery of that. And when I was thinking of this rebrand for the new website for Grand River Agency, I was just like, I just want to capture that aesthetic somehow, because it means something to me.
Well, when you mentioned it and you started talking about that, like, I got goosebumps, because I grew up, the Allegheny River starts in Potter County. I grew up in Potter County. It comes out of the ground in springs that all come together in Potter County.
Right.
And it goes all the way through the little town I grew up in, Rowlett, and it was in my backyard. Like,
literally in your backyard. Yeah.
So like, I grew up swimming every summer from the time that school let out until the time that school went back in. All of my summers were spent swimming and rafting and fishing in that river.
Right.
Like I think it runs through my veins.
Right.
So do you know what Allegheny actually means?
What does that mean?
Great river.
Great river. Or Grand River.
Yeah, that's the same thing.
Right. I didn't want to be Allegheny River Agency.
Everything around here is Allegheny something.
Yeah.
So,
well, everything is either up where I am in Olean, it's either Southern Tier something or Allegheny. Yeah, it's always that. So I wanted to have. I just hit the microphone. Wanted to have something a little bit different that expressed the same idea, the same concept.
Yeah, and I feel like it has a good ring to it. So I love the concept of it too. Like, from the very beginning, the natives would use it to go up and down the river to trade fur and to, just to transportation, and that was how they operated. And then, when you think of like cities like Pittsburgh, I know you went golfing in Pittsburgh recently, right?
Yeah, down to Oakmont, yeah, which was amazing.
Pittsburgh was built from the timber from up here, all of the hemlock and white pine trees that were like massive.
Right.
Those old growth trees, they would cut them and they would put them in the river and they would float them down. And that's what built Pittsburgh.
Right.
In fact, there are still buildings that have those old timbers in them. And how'd they get there? They got there over the river, which I think like really fits who we are.
Right.
We're here to help be that avenue for our clients to be able to get their ideas, their message, their products, right, to the market.
Right. Absolutely. So, back to, I guess, the start of
Sure.
Southern Tier Communication Strategies, which became Grand River Agency. That was shortly after I had left. I was working for a small local nonprofit in the healthcare realm as a grant writer. And naturally, I mean, and this is a small nonprofit, so we're talking a staff of like 6 full-time people, and like, you know, they did some other stuff with volunteers and everything like that. But I mean, it was very small, and being the person on staff who had that writing skill set, so in addition to the grant writing, which was like my title, I did a lot of the digital marketing stuff and the PR and the community outreach and the social media posting, things that I've been doing for my entire career in one way or another. That just kind of fell on me. And when I left there and I was looking into starting this agency, I wanted to take all of the skill sets that I had gained through the years, starting with journalism, starting as an intern in the sports department at a small local newspaper, all the way up to, you know, winning the awards that I did, and then going on to be city editor, and then moving on just out of necessity because I was raising a family, you know, moving on to digital marketing, and then moving on just to grant writing because it seemed like it would be an interesting change of pace and a skill set that I wanted to develop. I wanted to take all of that and put that into something that we would be able to serve small businesses and small organizations that I've known through the years that otherwise they wouldn't be able to afford the full-time services, like a full-time marketing manager. I mean, if you're paying someone $90,000 a year, a lot of those organizations just cannot afford that. So those responsibilities fall to either like a team of one, or they're done by committee, by people who are just like, hey, this is a part of your day. They don't have the skill set to do that. They don't know how to write. Even writing a press release has an art to it.
Yeah.
You know, so I wanted to be able to help them with that on a contract basis, so they're not spending they wouldn't be able to get to that point anyways. You know, hopefully we build them up to the point where they could hire more staff and they would have more communications capacity. But as it stands right now, we're happy to serve these organizations that otherwise wouldn't be able to build that capacity on their own.
So you mentioned press release, which brings to mind one of our services that I think is worth talking about, the publicity, public relations end of things.
PR. Love it.
Dude, so we have this distinct advantage that most people don't have, is that we have this career in journalism. We sat in the newsrooms reading press releases and then figuring out what needed to go in the newspaper or on the radio.
Oh yeah.
All day long for years. So years. Uh-huh. Like we worked as editors, and that's the thing most people don't understand about, especially small towns. Like, you're not just a journalist, you're also an editor, because you're editing, you know, the paper. You might get pulled from writing to layout one day because they need the help because somebody's got the flu.
Sure.
So like, we did all the jobs in those places, and like, we know exactly what the person in charge of that newspaper wants to have on it.
Right.
So we have the code.
Right.
We know the hack to take your message and get it in front of, you know, potentially millions of people, because we've done that. You know,
for sure.
I had a client who's actually one of my best friends. I call him my client because
I love this story, by the way. This is fantastic.
I could probably tell 10 of these kinds of stories, but
every time you say it to someone different, I'm just like enthralled by it.
So my friend Justin Willoughby, who's got his own podcast, the 600 Pounds Down podcast. You should go check it out.
That's fantastic.
He used to weigh 799 pounds. Dude, it's massive. And he, like, you know, decided to change his life. You know, his first exercise was 1 step, you know?
Yeah.
Dude has lost 600 pounds. His life has drastically, radically changed. And so when I first met him, I was working at the radio station. And so, like, you know, and I had friends at the newspaper. And so like somebody noticed his story and did an article about him. And he was very frustrated because for him, his story, like the heart of his story is what changed his life is his faith.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And newspaper people a lot of times will just like edit that out of the story because they don't understand it. Right.
Right.
And so
the cutting room floor.
Right. Like, okay, who cares about Jesus? It doesn't make sense here, you know?
Right.
And so, like, talking to him, I started kind of coaching him how to word it so they don't edit it out.
Right.
Just from that perspective, like if you say this, it'll give you more traction than if you say this.
Right.
How to tell your story in a way that's going to get noticed. So I started helping him do that. And then eventually he got to the place where he had an opportunity to go. There was a doctor that offered him money or offered him like a surgery to remove a lot of his extra skin.
Yeah.
And so I'm like, hey, let's help you write a press release about you doing this fundraiser. And so we did, and it got picked up. It got like ran it in the local paper. And what I did is I wrote it as a feature story.
Right.
So as though I was a journalist sitting in the newspaper, I wrote the story as a feature story.
That is a feature story.
Right.
Yeah. That's not a 350 word press release.
No,
announcing some initiative. That's a feature story.
Right. So I wrote it as a feature story.
Yeah.
Send it in as a press release. They didn't edit a single thing. I think they might have changed the style because, I hate AP style, but it always annoys me. And I had Oxford commas, but I sent it in.
And I love AP style. We couldn't be more different that way. I love AP style. That was hammered home in my head when I was in college.
Yeah.
AP style.
So we sent it in, and it got picked up by the local newspaper, who was a member of the Associated Press.
Right.
So it got picked up by the Associated Press, got noticed by Inside Edition. Inside Edition does a piece on him about when he goes to get his surgery done.
Right.
So that got attention, and it's out there. So a few years later, he hit a bigger milestone. So he hadn't lost 600 pounds yet. That was like 400 pounds. So when he hit the 600 pounds point, we did another press release feature story and send it in. Again, Associated Press. He gets called by and his paper was all over the country. So he's getting emails left and right of people like inspired by what he's doing.
Right.
So he gets called in the same day, he got called by Good Morning America and the Today Show, and they wanted him on their show.
Right.
And neither of them would work. Like neither of them wanted him if he went with the other. So I'm like, dude, and he's like, I don't know what to do. I don't know what to tell these people. I have no experience with this. So I just basically became his mediator,
Yeah.
I'm like, all right, I'm going to be your publicist. And
his
so
publicist,
I helped him navigate it. And then they said, hey, look, when you come out, you can bring 2 people with you. We'll put you up in 2 rooms. This is for the Today Show.
Yeah.
Put you up in 2 rooms. And so he brought his wife and brought me, and I got a room to myself, and like right near Rockefeller Center.
Right.
I got to go to 30 Rock and on the set of the Today Show with him. And he told his story live on the air. I had breakfast with Fallout Boy.
I love that part of the story. I was waiting for that scum.
Had breakfast in the Today Show green room. Went up to met Matt Lauer, who had just used Purell, so he wouldn't shake my hand, so he gives me an elbow bump, and I was like, this guy's a creep. Come to find out, he really was a creep.
Yeah.
And then,
well, that's neither here nor there.
Yeah,
that's not a part of the discussion, but.
And then we went out, and before we went, like the week before he went out, as we negotiated and get it all set up, we hammered out a fast, dirty website design to get something on the internet, you know? And then we went out, and as soon as we got back to, like, we left the studio, we walked down to Central Park and just sat on one of those big rocks, and our phones just started going off. Ding, 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 from all the notifications of people going to like his Facebook page and interact with his social media posts and sending him emails from his website. And I just looked at him like, dude, your life is about to change.
Right.
So I don't know. I just tell him that crazy story because it's such a cool moment of.
Went viral. That's amazing.
Yeah.
For sure.
And, I mean, I can't promise that everybody, the small business that just, or the small nonprofit that just launched a new initiative that's going to change their community. I can't promise that we're going to get you on the Today Show. But what I can do is we can totally help you communicate to, especially your local audience, what you want to communicate.
Right. Yeah. Well, the Justin Willoughby story, that's an extraordinary circumstance.
Sure.
That's an extraordinary circumstance. So, I mean, naturally it's going to garner the national media attention, something like that. But it's just as important, like you said, if there's some sort of nonprofit initiative, or your small business has begun a collaboration with another local small business, that's still that's a valid story. That's a valid story worth telling, and it's a valid story worth making waves within your sphere of influence.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what we're here to do.
And we, I know that both of us in our work as journalists have helped many people do just that.
Sure.
So I feel like we've got something there to offer that's very different than what a lot of marketing agencies are doing, because we have that specific experience.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
Anything else we want to say about what we're doing at Grand River?
Other than the fact that we're just here to help you amplify your message in whatever way that we can possibly. That's why I don't want to I didn't want it to just be a digital marketing agency,
right?
Where it's just focusing on search engine optimization, where you're just focusing on Google ads or something like that. Like, I wanted to be professional storytellers, to give a voice to the voiceless. I mean, give me a cape, I guess, that sort of thing. But that's what we're here to do. And it's a commitment of mine forever. And we're too far down the path to fail at this point. So.
Right. So, speaking of being professional storytellers, are you familiar with Donald Miller at all? Have you heard of his work?
Yeah. Yep.
So, I love him. He wrote a book called Blue Like Jazz. That was his first book, autobiographical. Just talks about his journey through faith, and so it was really interesting. But then he kind of became this marketing maven, and wrote a book called Building Your Story Brand.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought it would be cool, just since we want to make sure that we're adding value here. Like, this is not just us goofing off on microphones. We want to teach you things that can help you. Like, his story brand model is super helpful. So I'm going to try to make sure we leave a link in the show notes. I was
going to say, at the very least, let them see the graphic.
Yeah. We'll have a link in the show notes, or maybe we'll even share the graphic on our blog so you can look at it. But he's looking at your story as or even actually, it's not your story that matters, it's your customer's story that matters, right? So, the people that you are serving, the people that you are helping. So, like, if you're a nonprofit, your customer, we learned this from our friends at Major Gifts Ramp Up and the National Association of Nonprofit
Organizations and NANO.
Right, NANO.
Yeah.
We, they say that if you're a nonprofit, your donors are your customers.
That's right.
Right. And
completely different way of looking at it, but without the money, you have no mission.
Right.
Yeah. Right. Your donors are your primary customers, and they are paying for the privilege of providing this service, essentially.
Right. So if you're a nonprofit, when you're telling your story, you've got to understand that it's not really your story. Like, you're also trying to tell the story of the people that you're serving, and your role in that is to help them succeed.
It has to be outwardly focused. Right. What I've come, and not to cut you off or anything, but what I've come across with a lot of nonprofits is the messaging is not outwardly focused on how they're impacting it's inwardly focused. Here's what we do is what they're essentially saying. No. Here's how people are benefiting from you. That's the primary story there that you need to be telling.
Right.
And that appeals to it in an awesome way, appeals to the people who need to be aware of your programs and services as a nonprofit to benefit from them. But it also appeals so much to the donors, the grant funders, the foundations, because the first thing that they're going to do if you submit a proposal for funding, if it's a grant proposal, or if you're just reaching out to, a wealthy benefactor, the first thing they're going to do is check your social media presence to see if you're actually just accomplishing the things that you say you're going to accomplish. And the only way that you can get that across in the digital realm is by telling those stories. So I cut you off there. I'm so sorry.
No, it was, but I brought that up because it's important. Because as we start looking at the story brand, it helps you understand. So, like, whether you're a nonprofit or a small business, it's important to understand who the story is about. The story is about your customer, or if you're a nonprofit, it's your donor, right? So the story starts out with a character. And in this story model, you can look at it, and it basically is like every heroic story ever told. It's Star Wars, it's Lord of the Rings, it's Halloween.
I do love the Halloween movies, but I don't.
Kelsey is obsessed with Mike Myers. Yeah. I get a Mike Myers gift once a day from.
He's talking about Mike Myers from Austin Powers. Actually.
No, not that Mike Myers.
Michael Myers, who is evil.
Right. But you have a character, who has a problem.
He wants to kill people. I'm just kidding. Yeah. We're getting rid of the Halloween discussion.
Yeah, we're gonna end that now.
Yeah,
okay.
no,
we have a character.
This is the hero story arc.
Right.
Yes.
Right. So we have a character who has a problem, and he meets a guide. And the guide gives them a plan, and calls them to action. And then that call to action either ends in a success or helps them avoid failure.
Right.
So if Star Wars, you've got Luke Skywalker. He has a problem, is that he's living under the tyranny of the Empire, and he meets Obi-Wan Kenobi or Yoda. Both of those two are his guides in the different movies.
Right.
Meets a guide. The guide teaches him the path of the Jedi and tells him, calls him to action, and then it either ends in success, right, where he defeats, the Empire, or avoids failure, depending on which movie you're in or which story you're in. And so I think it's really important to understand that when you're telling your marketing message, your role is that you are typically the guide.
Yeah.
You are the one who's offering help to your character, who is your customer or your donor or whoever. And I think that framework is really important to understand the process of the story that you're telling. So as with Grand River Agency, I know we're kind of telling our story and the things we've done, but what we're really doing here and what this is really about is it's about you. We want
Correct.
You, and I'm saying you, not Kelsey, but you, the listeners.
Yeah, you were pointing at me.
We want, you, the listener, like, we're here to be the guide so that we can help you develop a plan that calls you to action that either ends in a success or helps you avoid a failure.
I couldn't say it any better than that. That was perfect. That is right. Yeah. So be sure to share that. Check that out. Let's put it in the blog.
Yeah.
Let's put the graphic in the blog. Yeah, absolutely.
And I'll link to Donald Miller's book and
Sure.
some of those resources, because there's stuff there that'll really help you.
Yeah. Read that.
But it's definitely good stuff.
Yeah.
So. Oh, well, man, before we close out, we've told a lot of stories, and I think stories are our bag.
Do you have
Do
you have something else for us?
I have a story. So we talked about being in journalism, right?
Yeah.
So back in like 2004, 2005-ish, I worked at a local radio station, but I lived like 45 minutes away, and I was on the morning show. So I had to be at the radio station. Actually, I had to be at the police station to read the blotter. I was the news director at the time. I had to read the blotter at like 4:45 in order to get back to the station to write the stories as quickly as I could, most of which I stole from...
You should have reported live to read the blotter.
Right. And so, so then I would come back and I would write the stories. I'd read the newspaper to get things like we did. Like we would steal stories from the newspaper.
Yeah,
because
that happens.
Because that's just the way. And they would steal stories from us, but they had more details because they were longer form,
I remember when I was a reporter, I remember some of my stories being read verbatim over the air.
Yeah, no, I never did that.
Yeah, I was just like, oh yeah, I remember writing that literally. Like, because I was working like 70-hour weeks. Like, I remember writing that on deadline literally 6 hours before when I was going back to the office listening to it on the radio.
The worst thing was when you would be rewriting a story. My goal is when you're doing that in the news industry, because you have to, in the newspaper, in the news radio industry, you have to be quick, and you have one person to do what 5 people are doing at the newspaper.
Yeah.
Right. And so we didn't have the ability to send out reporters to everything that we wanted to. So there would be meetings and stuff. So my goal was to only write what was publicly available. Right. It was public record that I could go and look up myself. I hated when like the newspaper reporter would make a mistake and then I would carry on that mistake because I didn't have the time to do the work myself. Anyway,
it wasn't me who made the mistake, by the way, folks.
Right. This was when you were still in high school.
Yeah.
But all of that to say, I'm driving at 4:00 in the morning. I'm coming down Looker Mountain Hill, and before I was on Looker Mountain Hill, I fall asleep while I'm driving, which I did frequently. And so I'm like,
that's terrifying.
Dude, I drove that whole route asleep. And so there was a turn that I would have to make that would cut off some of the time, and I slept through that turn. And then I'm going straight, and I'm going up
straight into a tree. No,
I'm going up this different hill, but it feels very similar to the hill if I had turned.
Right.
But it's just not quite right. You know what I mean? Like I could robot drive it, you know, and I'm like, that's not right. And then I get down to the bottom of the hill, and I wake up going through an intersection with 2 cars coming at me from both directions. I'm like, whoa, I'm going to die. And so like I could slam on the brakes and get hit by 2 cars, or I could step on the gas. And it was not a 4-way intersection. It was a T intersection.
Yeah.
And there was a house directly in front of me. Slammed on the gas, jumped their ditch. The car slammed down. When it did, my glasses flew off. This was back before I had my eyes fixed and I had to wear glasses. And I just missed the house by like 2 inches. And so I'm bending over to pick up, I'm shocked. And I bend over to pick up my glasses, and my shoulder hits the horn. And I'm like, what the heck, dude? What the heck? And so I get my glasses, and this guy comes out and he knocks on my window, and I get out of the car, and he was like, what are you doing, man? He thought I was a drunk driver because of the hour, you know?
Sure.
I'm like, I'm sorry. I got to get to work. I'm late. You know, I don't know where I am. And I said, where's your driveway? And so I drive through his yard, and I leave, and I was late because I had no idea where I was. I ended up on some other back road. I finally figured out where I was. I made it to work. Didn't get to stop at the police station.
Mm-hmm.
So I called the police when I got to work. I'm like, hey, you guys have anything happen overnight that we need to report on this morning? And he's like, oh yeah. If you're at work, I'll send an officer down to talk to you about it. Huh? That's weird.
What?
Cop shows up. Mm-hmm. Hey, did you run into a house this morning? Yeah. So that was a crazy story.
So what happened?
So he looked at the car, like he's like, I see a dent on your car. Is that from running into the house? I'm like, no, that dent was from a deer. If you look, it's covered in like an inch of dust and dirt. You know, like it's not fresh. And he confirmed it. So then they were teasing me about it on the air. Right? Because it was a morning show. It was like the morning zoo kind of shows, you know?
Yeah.
So I would read the news, and then they would make fun of me all morning. That was the radio show. And
that's so mean.
And they're making fun of me.
That was the radio show every day?
Yes.
It's just like, here's the news, and I'm just going to make fun of Josh here for the next 2 hours.
And then the guy whose house I almost hit calls in. He's like, oh, well, now that I know it's you, I'm going to call the police and tell them not to worry about it. You're fine, man. It's all good.
Did you get a chance to talk to him on air?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry, man. I had no idea where I was. I was asleep. I woke up in your yard.
You're like, hi, buddy. How are you? Long time no see.
Oh, and like there was some damage on his house, but I'm like it was already damaged, and he thought that I did it. You know, I'm like, I didn't hit the house. I swear. He's like, no, I believe you. I went out and I looked, and I realized it was something old. You know, I saw it in the dark. When I see it in the daylight, I realized it wasn't from the car, you know?
Right.
So,
right.
Yeah, that was a crazy time in my life, man.
That's one that I hadn't heard before. And I like that story.
Dude, I've got a million stories.
I know. And I want to hear every single one of them. Good thing we have this podcast. We can just sit here and just listen to Josh stories forever.
Well, I know there's a lot of good Kelsey stories too. So I kind of want to, like, since storytelling is our thing, why not have some fun with it, right?
Right. I don't remember any of the stories.
That's all right.
I'm just kidding.
We'll pull them out. Pull them out.
Yeah. I'll have to just, make a little journal of like, well, what happened in 2017, Run down through all of that.
Yeah. You have to see if you can remember some awesome stories. So listen, if you appreciate what we're doing here at StratComm, I want you to make sure that you get plugged in with what we're doing. I want you to amplify your message. Hopefully we're giving you things that can help you amplify your message to serve your customers, to serve the people that you're trying to serve. Hopefully we're giving you information that can help you. But if you're looking at it all and you're overwhelmed and you need a hand, I want you to go to our website and I want you to reach out, because that's what we do.
We're very accessible.
Yeah.
Very accessible.
Yeah. In fact, every page on our website almost has a contact form on it to make sure that you can figure out how to get in touch with us.
Yeah, absolutely.
So just go to grandriver.agency.
Mm-hmm.
or you can find us on social media and shoot us a message, because we want to help you succeed. We want to make friends with you, and we want to see our friends succeed. That's what we want to do.
Shoot me a text. I like texting my friends.
Do you?
Yeah, I do.
Dude, if
I text you all day.
If you text Kelsey, be prepared that he will probably send you memes and GIFs all day.
Yep. That's pretty much it. It entertains my brain.
Well, I want to appreciate you guys all for tuning in to StratComm, the small business and nonprofit marketing podcast. Again, make sure you check out our website at StratComm.Live, because we're going to have not only the content that we're creating there, but we're going to be putting in marketing content from all over the web that is going to be helpful to you.
Mm-hmm.
And there's going to be lots of stuff there that's going to help you. Because honestly, whether or not you are our client, we want you to succeed. We want to know that we've invested in helping you succeed.
Correct.
So go there and you'll learn. StratComm.Live. Subscribe, leave a rating, a review, so that we can make sure that other people also can learn about how to tell their story well.
That's perfect.
I'm excited.
I couldn't have said it any better. Thank you so much for that. Making my job very easy.
Well, Kelsey, we all have a story to tell.
Yes, and let's tell it well.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.